Hi, welcome. So, welcome to today's webinar. Now, this is a free class that we have put together because we identified the issues that many entrepreneurs have across Africa. And this is one thing we keep hearing. How do I keep my employees? How do I get them to do the job? How do I? So Business Lab Africa has put together this webinar called Employee Motivation, strategies to motivate your employees beyond shouting and yelling at them. So I'm here to welcome you. So I'll just do a brief introduction of myself before I hand over to the trainer for today. Now my name is Trisha Ikwawamba. I'm known as Trisha Bees. I'm a coach based in Nigeria. I'm a business coach based in Nigeria, and I'm the founder of Business Lab Africa. Now, in the last 2 years, I've trained over 30,000 African entrepreneurs, and I've helped over 100 of them scale their businesses to begin to earn revenue in six digits in the US dollars. Now, these are people who have moved from a monthly revenue of, say, 50 million naira to 150 million. Some are doubling, some have tripled their revenue based on strategies that have given them over a period of time coaching them. And this year, I launched this platform called Business Lab Africa, and I'll talk to you briefly about it. So basically, it's an online business school for African entrepreneurs where we provide affordable, quality, and locally relevant courses. Locally relevant means it is suited to doing business in Africa, all at a price your business can afford. And luckily for you today, it's free. So I'm going to hand over to the trainer who is going to be talking about today's topic. So if you remember, it is strategies to motivate your employees. His name is Harry Akinola. He has a PhD and he is the global head of talent, learning and development for Puma Energy. And he's based out of Johannesburg, South Africa. So welcome, Mr. Harry, and over to you.
I'd just like to welcome everyone and sorry for keeping you waiting. We're just trying to sort out the technology part. I'm so excited to be taking you on this short webinar on the platform of BLA. And tonight, like you know, we are going to be exploring how to motivate your employees because the shouting is not a strategy. I'll say that we will stay more on the shouting is not a strategy because like you know, this is like a blended learning, which means there's this webinar part and there is another course. There's a course you can take, which I would recommend you take because I'm going to essentially go through the first part on this webinar. Like you know, you can use the chat. Someone says they cannot hear me. Yeah, if you can hear me, just wave, just so I know that at least perhaps the issue is isolated. Thank you. So some people can hear me. If you cannot, please can you just check your speaker again? It could be an issue from your side. Thank you for waving. So while I'm trying to get my presentation up, like I said, I'll focus more on the first part. And the first part is actually that shouting is not a strategy. The second part is the specifics around how to motivate your people. And that can be used in any environment. As an entrepreneur in an organization where you're a leader, a supervisor, a manager, you can use the principles anywhere you find yourself. So that will be on the course. And this tonight, we essentially look at, from your point of view, how shouting is really not a strategy. Okay, I still don't have access to share my screen. I think they are chatting with me on another platform. Not yet, I cannot share yet. Okay, I might need to send my slide to someone so they can put it up. Right, I'll try again. Okay, says I can. I'm just trying to share my screen, people. Okay. You know what? In the interim, I'm going to have to email you the slides so that we don't keep people waiting. Okay, so the slides should be on the way to you, support. All right, so like I said, we will essentially focus more on the part of you and how you can explore other strategies rather than shouting. And yeah, I mean, we all shout. I shout. Hello, I confess I shout sometimes, but the reality is it's actually not the best thing to do. Now, this this particular course I'm sharing with you have been privileged to actually train people on them in several countries, especially African countries. I can give you examples. I've done it in Zambia, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Tanzania, in South Africa, in Ghana, and of course in Nigeria. And everywhere I've taken this course, every manager, every leader has got something to say about it. And what they have to say is, you know what? When I have to shout, I shout. Because it looks like people don't listen until you shout at them. So it's really not a Nigeria thing, or it's a Ghana thing, it's a Tanzania. I'll tell you, the country where I find very, different to other countries, Tanzania. And if you think about it, their culture is a bit laid back compared to the other countries I've mentioned. So they're a bit different. However, there's still people there who shout at people, when they are frustrated. And that's the reason we shout. Do you have my slides now? Okay. So I guess we'll just have to go on. I really like to be visual, but unfortunately you can't see my slides now, but I don't want to keep you waiting anymore. So we're going to start from this. Okay, great. Thank you. You can just project straight from below. You can project my screen from below the screen. Just, you don't need to enable editing. Just go right. You will see a place to project there. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see my screen.
Okay. Can you see the slide?
I can see the slides, yes.
Okay, so we can start the class, sir.
We can go on. All right.
Can everyone see the class? The slides? Can everyone see the slides? If you can see the slide, please use the chat session.
Yeah, I think I've got some yeses
okay,
here.
Yes. So we can go on. So you tell me when you want me to move to the next slide, please.
All right. Thank you very much for your support. So that's Olden's slide. Shouting, yelling is not a strategy for employee motivation. My name is Harry Akinola, and I am the Global Head of Talent, Learning and Development at Puma Energy. Puma Energy is in 48 countries across the world. I'm privileged to be the Global Head of Learning and Development, and also the founder of UShift, which is a learning organization as well. You can go to the next slide, please. Now, just before we go on, I'd like you to do some exercises at some point, some activities at some point. Yes, I'm aware the slides isn't fully displayed, but I'll try as much as possible to cover what you should see on the slides. I think they've just enlarged it, they've not done presentation. I will like you to do some activities along the line, and of course, we'll have time to take questions. I'm eager to take your questions as much as I can take. But the whole essence of this course is to keep your people motivated without losing your cool. Please go to the next slide. Keeping your people motivated without...
Can you see the full screen now?
Yes, we can see the full screen now. Please go to the next page. All right, guys, you know what? I think I'll just go with the slides on my side while we wait for that. But there's an activity I want us to do first. And if you're still listening to me, just use the chat button. I will go there to read your comments. So the question is, why do you, if you do, if you don't, then you don't need to type anything. Why do you sometimes shout at your employees or your direct report, as the case may be? Can you put it in the chat box quickly? Frustration. Frustration. We have 2 points here. Because I work with grillers and some of them act like they don't think. Because they can be annoying sometimes. I shout because they just don't get it. To be heard loud and clear. I like that one. Not listening to instruction. They keep repeating what they are asked not to do. I don't shout. Oh, thank you. Someone doesn't shout. That's nice. When I get frustrated, most times you tell them to do one thing and then they do what they please. Annoying and not understanding. Frustration with repeating the same instructions because they don't get it right. I shout if I have to repeat instructions all the time. When they cannot do anything without me explaining over and over. Frustration from saying same things many times. I have to repeat myself over and over again. When they make mistakes, I have to repeatedly correct them about because they keep repeating the same mistakes. They are full of excuses, work pressure, they are semi-illiterates. When they are sluggish, they misunderstand instructions, they don't listen, still listening. Sometimes I have repeated some things numerous times and it's still not well done. They don't listen. How many of you just think that we are talking, if you see the tone of the messages I'm reading here, it's actually a lot about them. They are this, they are that. When they frustrate you, when the job is not well done. The question I want to ask you before we move on, and please, can you move to the next slide, please? What about you? Someone says they get something right today and they get something wrong next time. The question is, what about you? And that is a rhetoric question because I'm not expecting you to answer that. Support, please, can you move the slide to the next slide, please? Thank you. What about you? And move to the next one. Because it's very easy for us to pour this thing on them and what they have done and how they are pushing us and how they don't get it right. But how do you contribute to that thing? Now, a lot of times we are focused about our people, what they do wrong, and how it forces us to do things in certain ways, but we often forget what we have done to contribute to it. Please go to the next slide, please. Now, like I said, as a society, we create justifiable excuses, to shout at other people. We find ways to just say, to shout at them, Someone says, I don't shout, I shut down, and I don't communicate effectively. But while that is interesting, while that is the way you deal with it, how does that help your business grow? Or how does that help your organization grow? How does it help you get the job, done? See, there are many lists. There are many items on the list, right? And it often includes some of the things I've listed here. Parental correction and discipline. We've used that to justify why we need to shout at people. Even us as coaches, teachers, instructors, we desire to inspire, our students, and then we end up shouting. We can't hear louder volume, okay? All right, I'm going to have to shout so you can hear me. And like an employer as rebuking and correcting their staff to gain attention of another person. Sometimes we also shout to assert ourselves over others. Other times we incite or stir up emotions by shouting. And sometimes, to encourage or stimulate a particular outcome. And some of you have mentioned that. Thank you so much for mentioning the things you mentioned. Next slide, please. Now, I need you to know that shouting in itself is a difficult behavior in the workplace or wherever you find yourself. And it's important for you to see it as that, whether you are the one shouting or someone else is shouting. And generally, people demonstrate difficult behaviors when they feel thwarted or threatened. So even though you've given some answers tonight, and some of you say you don't shout, and then you hold back, interestingly, locking yourself up in your shell is also a form of difficult behavior. In some cases, they call it passive aggression. You are not saying anything, but you are saying a lot. You know what they say about nonverbal communication? Your action is so loud, I cannot hear what you are saying. So even if you coil back into your shell, you are still responding with a difficult behavior. So people demonstrate difficult behaviors, of which shouting is one of them, when they feel thwarted or threatened. Another one is exceptional levels of stress. And I went through that chart when I asked you the question. A lot of you listed frustration as a major reason you end up shouting at your employees or your direct reports. Interestingly, your own reactions to people's difficult behavior reinforces the behavior by increasing the stress you already feel, meaning that they can react to you in a particular way that increases the stress you already feel, and then you end up shouting. As much as we have that, and it feels justifiable, it is not, but it feels justifiable. The next one is learned behavior. Some people have just learned to shout because it helps them get things done. And they don't care what happens or how that thing is done as long as it is done. Let me tell you a short story. I used to have a manager many years ago when I joined one of the banks I've worked. And every time he wants to correct you, he goes, I will shout at you now. Like he threatens you with the fact that he's going to shout. Because if he shouts, he will get his way. That is not managing people. As a matter of fact, that is bullying people. That is workplace harassment. Now, another thing is inflexibility on both sides. So, like someone said, I want them to do something. They are not doing it the way I want them to do it, or they do it right today, they do it wrong tomorrow, and then they are not flexible to their approach. You are not flexible to your approach, then it leads to difficult behavior. And like I said, shouting is a difficult behavior. Whichever way you look at it, shouting is a difficult behavior. In the training in the course, I actually went into the specific types of shouting difficult behaviors, you may call them that way. Now let's go to the next slide. So essentially, the reason we shout at workers, for people that shout, which is perhaps 60 to 70% of what I read, is in response to stress, or you're just bullying people. It's either you're stressed or you're bullying people. Someone said, but my father, shouted at me and all that when I was growing up. Honestly, many of our fathers are bullies. Let's just call it the way it is. And sometimes you bully people, you've learned the behavior of bullying people, and that's why you shout at people. Because a lot of things that you get done through shouting can be done through not yelling, if you get what I'm saying. Next slide, please. Can you go to the next slide, please? So when you're stressed, this is actually what happens. There is a principle called, there's a man called Daniel Goleman, and everyone that has read about emotional intelligence will have learned about Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman wrote about the principle of the phenomenon called amygdala hijack. Essentially, your feeling brain at this point is separated from your thinking brain. So amygdala hijack is a person's emotional response that is immediate, very overwhelming, and out of measure with the actual stimulus because it has triggered a much more significant emotional threat. So when you are stressed and when their action or another person's action triggers this emotional response in you, you snap and then you overreact by screaming at your staff, by dealing with them abrasively, by being aggressive. So a lot of times, as a matter of fact, it is even not what they have done that is causing, the whole shouting thing. It is what you have experienced in another place. A story was told of a man on the road. He had this road rage and he was insulting another driver, and the driver hasn't done anything. But when he was asked what actually happened, he started complaining about what happened at home that morning. So it wasn't the other driver's fault, it was another person's fault, another person entirely. So sometimes when you are stressed, you end up landing on this person, you end up seeing everything they are doing as wrong, and then you lash out at them. That is when you're stressed. So shouting mostly is as a result of stress, which you have called frustration and all that. Go to the next slide, please. In the next slide, I'll talk about bullying. And like I said, a lot of us became bullies by learning. So you have demonstrated shouting as a difficult behavior for a very long time, or you have seen it for a very long time, and then now you're used to it. It's something you're used to. I can tell you that I just got used to it for a while in my life, and I'm trying very hard to work on it because it's something you got used to because it kind of got you some results. Someone actually told me, if I don't shout at them, then they won't do the right thing. And that is a very, interesting statement to make because that is not always true. Now, there's something called neural pathway in the mind, in the brain. And there's a connection formed by axons that project from the neurons to make synapses onto neurons in another location. Essentially, your brain is made up of several neurons, right? Thousands, if not millions of them. And what happens is, when there is a trigger, there's a stimulus, one neuron will take the information to another, and then they will connect to each other. They form, until they form what is called a neural pathway. Now, what happens is, the first time that stimulus happens, it's difficult. It's more difficult for the neurons to connect to the other neurons. So the pathway is difficult. But as it happens, as a similar thing happens over and over again, your reaction becomes easier and easier to demonstrate because your brain has created a neural pathway and now you are used to it. Let me give you an example. So let's say you have to clear a path in the bush. the first time you try to clear that path in the bush, it's very difficult to clear because it's not been cleared before, and then you're using your dagger, the machete to clear it. It's very difficult, right? But the moment you clear the path once and you try to clear it the second time, it becomes easier, right? The second time. The third time is even easier. The fourth time is easier. It gets to a point that people walk on that path, it looks like no grass has ever grown there before. So what happens with bullying and shouting at employees is a lot of times it's not just because of what they've done, it's because you are used to shouting. Your neural path, in your mind, a neural pathway has been created that tells you that every time this thing happens, my response to it is that I shout. Now, that is not your employee's problem to deal. You then need to work on yourself. Now, I'm going to talk about the impact on the employees, but I'm just building up here to say that it's important for you to know that a lot of times what you do is not as a result of what someone has done to you all the time. It's often as a result of what you are used to doing, or what you have decided to do, or what you have just done emotionally. So it's important for you to separate what you've done. Otherwise, the question I will ask you is, maybe I should just ask this question quickly before we go to the next exercise, right? How many of you, and I know a lot of people here are Africans, right? How many of you, if your dad does something wrong to you and he's doing it again the second time, you actually shout at him? Anybody? If you do, just type something in the chat box. I'm going to check now. Okay, someone said no. Okay, nobody's saying anything. All right? Not at all. No. Somebody actually laughed. But that's nice. You don't shout at your dad. Why? Why don't you shout at him when he does something wrong? I bet you, I do things wrong to my children. They don't shout. I mean, I'm not perfect, right? So when your parents do something wrong, they do something wrong to you, why don't you shout at them and put them in their place? Someone says, maybe when we are grown, someone said, I can't dare it. I'll tell you why you can't dare it. You respect him. And if you're still living in his house, he's got something over you, right? You don't shout at your boss in return. Someone says, I fear slap. African parents. You see that? That is the point, right? So you only shout at people you think you've got control over. That is another definition of bullying. Yeah, this pause is intentional. I wanted it to sink in a little bit. So I think you need to start looking at shouting differently from tonight, because it doesn't always fetch you what you think it will fetch you. Let's talk about the labor law. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, interestingly, the labor laws of many countries do not really make any provision against shouting at employees, except in certain cases where it might be tagged harassment. Besides, yelling at people is a form of rage. So in countries like South Africa, in countries like Namibia, if anybody from these countries are online, if in countries like that where the employee laws, the labor laws are clear, and you can actually take your employer to court, you cannot take them to court for shouting at you. So that is why you've been escaping it. However, there are certain things you cannot escape. And that is the impact of shouting on you, the yeller, on your employees that I would call the yellee, and then on your organization, the yelling organization, right? Now, it's important for you to know that even though there's no law against shouting, it has huge, huge impact upon you, the people you're shouting at, and then the business. Now, I know someone might say, what if I just raise my voice? Is there anything wrong with raising my voice at people? I'm sorry, Adiola, that you're losing us. Just please stay hanging there. If is anything wrong with raising my voice at people, and I'm going to just share some things with you. Next slide, please. So there's a difference between raising your voice at people and yelling. Please go to the next slide. A raised voice is often a firm. Next slide, please. A raised voice is a firm but supportive voice with the intent to direct or lead. It is important to know that we can be firm, supportive, and decisive without engaging in acts of yelling. You can be reassuring but directive in style. So there is a time you can raise your voice without yelling at people, and they will get the message. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in a family where my mom didn't really shout at us, but what she did was, was more directive, if you get what I'm saying. It's very directive. Yes, raised voice and yelling are completely different. Very directive. I mean, if a guest comes to the house, for instance, and the guest is served Coca-Cola, for instance, and you as a young child, everyone loves Coke, everyone loves Fanta, if you get what I'm saying. You want to ask Auntie for a little sip of Auntie's Coke or Fanta. My mom will not shout. She will only give me a look. Honestly, that look is louder than shouting. Till date, if I see that look, I understand exactly what it means. Now, you might not have experienced that, but in the workplace, you will need to learn when to be firm but supportive. So there are times when you're telling someone, please put that cup over there. And then you notice that they don't want to put it there because they've got other intentions. And you've tried to explain to them. You can actually be firmer and say, please, would you put that cup over there? Now, you've raised your voice slightly differently from the first time, but now you've been firm. But I can go and do it in another way. I beg, please put that cup over there. You this idiot. Now that is yelling. So yelling is characteristically devised of harsh, abrasive, and punitive form of communication. Yelling is demeaning, it's hostile, and threatening with the intent of chastising. Yelling is condescending, and it is demeaning. So it's important for you to know that in the workplace, there are times to be firm, but being firm doesn't mean you will shout at people. There are times to be directive, and because you're being directive, you are asserting yourself a little bit, but asserting yourself doesn't mean you yell at people, because yelling at people is wrong in many, many instances, and we're going to get there in a short while. Can you please go to the next slides, please? All right, we're going to have a quick activity here, but before I get there, let me show you the various types of shouting or the various types of yelling, as you may call it. The first one is we shout as a warning. For instance, you're warning against an impending danger. So someone is walking and not paying attention, and they're about to fall in a pit. You can shout, you can yell, and you can say in your workplace, someone is working with machineries and then they're about to do something very dangerous, and then you shout. I'll give you an instance. I had this same course in Ghana, and there was a Nigerian who attended the session, and then he said, so they had this terminal, it's an energy company, they had this terminal, and one of the supervisors got onto the terminal. He wasn't wearing his PPE, that is a personal protective equipment, and he was putting on bathroom slippers, So he yelled at him, what are you doing? This is dangerous, that kind of a thing. Well, so let's say as a warning, good. Now, as a plea for help. For instance, you fall out, help, I've fallen and I cannot get up. So people can yell for plea for help. Number 3, as an act of intimidation, threat, or violence. For instance, Stop that or I'll fire you. Sorry, there's an E missing there. Stop that or I'll fire you. That's intimidation or threat or violence. Then the fourth one here is as a punishment or correction. For instance, you are always making mistakes. Now that's not odd, that's ode. You know, I had to put that there because I've heard it before. You're always making mistakes, Momo. You're always making mistakes, idiot. You're always making mistakes. You know, whatever else we call them, right? So there's a quick activity for you I want you to do quickly. Let's take the first two up or the first two down. Which ones are constructive or destructive? Can you quickly answer? Which of the types of shouting are constructive and which ones are destructive? Can you put the chart on the box quickly? Let's see. So you can just say, let's go with top two or lower two. Thank you. I'm getting some answers here. Some people say top two constructive, first two up are constructive. Okay, thanks, support. Let's answer. It's time for class activity. Good. Top two are constructive. Top two are constructive. How come you guys are not saying anything about the lower two? Thank you, Tulu Lokbe. The lower two destructive. Top two, last two destructive. Bottom two destructive. Bottom two constructive. Top two, lower two destructive. Thank you very much. Thank you. Keep them coming. Top two are constructive. Lower two destructive. Lower two destructive. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, great. So we understand now. Thank you so much for following, and thank you so much for your contributions. So we agree that the first two can be constructive, and it all depends on how you say it. Although some school of thought will tell you, actually, the very first one, depending on how you do it, can equally be destructive. Imagine a child at the brink of falling into a pool, or well, a pool of water, or a swimming pool, and none of you can swim, and then you scream at them, even though you're warning them. There's a way you scream that you scare them, and if they're scared, they can fall into the pool of water, right? So there's a way that can be a bit destructive. So it's in between the lines somehow. Plea for help, honestly. When we need help, we shout anyhow, as long as people can hear us. So tick. However, the last two in any situation cannot be constructive. You cannot threaten people that you fire them. You cannot threaten them, you throw them out, you know. And we all do that in some ways. We all try to use our power to, the word is intimidate people. So I need you to think very well. Are you motivating your staff by shouting at them, or you are actually intimidating them? Because honestly, if you, I'm sorry Onyeye for being lost, just keep trying. She's struggling with the network. If you continue to intimidate people, you will soon lose everyone that is around you. You soon lose them. So it's important for you to know that you can intimidate them. The number two is, come on, if you're going to discipline people, then you discipline people. And you'll see that in the course that I spoke about discipline as one of the key motivating factors for some people. If you're going to discipline people, you discipline them. But when it becomes punishment, especially in the workplace, it is no longer motivating. As a matter of fact, it becomes demoralizing. Let me tell you this. When your people are not engaged, you start losing productivity. If you start losing productivity, you start losing money. Simple. As a matter of fact, some businesses die before they start because of this attitude of shouting by entrepreneurs. Some teams struggle because of this issue of I just read one. If you don't want to work, just resign. That's just intimidating people. That's, you know, threatening people. So please be careful about that. It's important that you're careful. Now, you need to know that shouting or yelling often becomes a necessity for people when they feel overwhelmed, exacerbated, and when they have perceivably lost control. Because when you are in control, honestly, you don't shout all the time. People shout more when they feel I don't have control anymore. And do you know what to say about when people leave you? People don't leave organizations. People leave managers. People leave entrepreneurs. So if people are leaving you in your organization, that doesn't mean everyone will leave you because you're bad. That doesn't mean you're bad. It only means you want to ask yourself, is there anything I'm doing that is encouraging people to leave? And if that thing is yelling at people, is shouting at people, or using any other similar body language, I just need to stop, because it is more damaging than beneficial. When you shout at people, it looks like they've got something done, but actually they've got it done, but to what quality and at what expense? Okay, we're now going to the next slide. Let me talk you through the impact of yelling, and I want us to finish quickly so I can take questions. The impact of yelling on the various stakeholders. Somebody says, yes, every job I left was because of bullying managers. Good. Hope you support. Can you move to the next slide, please? I'm about to where yelling is concerned, right? The first one is the yellee. That is not an English word per se, but indulge me. Then we have the yeller. Then we have the yellers organization. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. So the yellee, what happens when you yell at them? You can see the picture I put there. The man's head is literally bending. What happens is you actually lose control. The yellee loses control. They make more mistakes. They produce poor quality. They start disengaging, because if you don't like to be yelled at, how come you think the yellee is happy with you yelling at them all the time? They feel disrespected. It can even affect their self-esteem, so they feel less of themselves. And honestly, it leads to medical issues as well, anxiety attack and things like that. And just before you think you are good at yelling at people, and then you don't care what happens to them and all that, you have your own impact as well. Number one is that you should be embarrassed, right? How can you be the only mad person in the room? You're yelling and shouting at people. And let me tell you a story. I've been in a situation where, this was not a direct report. It was very long ago. And if you know Nigeria, I was in my NYC, and I was taking this bus, this taxi, and this conductor was there, misbehaving. And as a youth corper, I looked at him, I was shouting, blah, 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 blah. He wasn't shouting back, interestingly. Then at some point, he was trying to, he wasn't, perturbed in any way. Then I told him, do you know who I am? Then I was expecting him to say, sorry, sir, no vex. I'm sorry to do this. Then the guy asked me, so who are you? I have never been more embarrassed in my life because I didn't know whether to tell him I am a corper, I am a this, or I'm a that, because honestly, the answer was clear. I was a nobody. In that context. So I was highly embarrassed. I took my seat, and for the rest of the journey, I was very quiet. Even for every other thing they did, I didn't yell. I didn't say a word. Why? Because I've been put in my place. Be careful, because you yell at these people and you keep doing it, someday one person will put you in your place. And the funny thing is, you get worse. So the more you yell at people, the more you actually especially if they don't, fight back or, do anything to you, you actually become good at it. So you become a professional yeller, like you have PhD in yelling, like something like that. And then, you have medical issues, anxiety attack can come to you as well. And as a business owner, you start losing money actually, because, you start losing productivity. And for your organization, it becomes a toxic environment, then people adopt shouting as a strategy, which is not, but people think it is. You encourage other difficult behaviors, because if you keep shouting at people and people keep withdrawing to their shells, you keep losing their creativity because they will never open up to you. So you have non-responsives in your organization because you shout too much. The same thing in the family, by the way. If you shout at people, they will not respond. People just either shout back at you or they crawl back into their shell, into shells. You will increase the attrition rate because people are going to leave you. Like we said, people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. Reduction in operational excellence, and eventually for your organization, financial loss. And I don't know why you're in business. I don't know why you're working. If part of it is not to make money, then, you shouldn't be in business, actually. It should be a social enterprise at the minimum. All right. Let's go to the next slide. I want to talk about the benefit of not yelling. Next slide, please. And it's very simple. If we avoid yelling, then we are purposefully choosing an alternate and healthier form of communication. And this is very important, that essentially we are showing a higher degree of respect, dignity, and honor unto those with whom we interact. When we have personal self-control, we are empowered to manage, direct, and lead others in a healthy way. Do you get what I'm saying? Once you avoid yelling, you start exploring healthier ways of communication. I don't like to be yelled at. So when I have my introspection time, I actually think about how the people I've yelled at, how they feel about it. So it's important that you change your approach to an approach where you actually demonstrate personal self-control. You demonstrate that you have the power to manage, direct, and lead others in a healthy way. Next slide, please. So to become a no yeller, in the next slide, all you need to be is to be emotionally intelligent. That's it. You just need to be emotionally intelligent. That's what we are saying in essence. So that's how to be a no yeller. So actually, you yell because you're still struggling with your emotional intelligence. As a matter of fact, a true test of your emotional intelligence is how much you yell when you're frustrated, or how much you are able to maintain your cool when you are leading people. And your case is not a function of your industry or a function of the business you do, because people like to categorize people. I deal with drivers, and with drivers, you have to shout all the time. I work in this organization, and if you don't scream at people, they don't hear what you're saying. You need to ask yourself a question. Do you scream at them all the time? So when you don't scream at them, why do they still do things perfectly in those situations? So there must be something you need to learn in that context that perhaps you haven't learned. But the easiest way out is to scream and get them to do it, and then you blame them for not doing it well. Actually, if you scream at people and they falter because you have screamed at them, yelled at them, it is not just their fault. You are a contributor to that problem, and you should also bear the consequences as well. Next slide, please. So let me just talk about, of course, emotional intelligence. We've got a question. I'm supposed to take questions later, but I'll just take this quickly. Just want this one question. So here's the question. What happens when you always employ your emotional intelligence and not yell, and there are still no improvements? So you want to ask yourself, do you have the right people? Do they know what to do? Someone said, if you don't train them, don't blame them. So what you want to ask yourself is, go back. Why are they not getting it? Try and find out. There must be a reason why they're not getting it. If you don't find out why they're not getting it, and you keep yelling, honestly, you're making a mockery of yourself in public, and they're just laughing at you. And like I know many of you on this call would have done, what junior people do to senior people, or what employees do to employers, or what staff do to entrepreneurs is, when you finish shouting, they gather together and they tell themselves, don't worry, all that she will do is shout. You know? And they laugh at you. And when you are coming, they tell themselves, oh no, the African shouter is here. You know, they just make a mockery of you. You know? And so you need to improve your own emotional intelligence for your sake. And the 5 domains are what you're seeing on the screen, if you can see the screen, but I'm going to talk through them if you can see the screen. It is self-awareness, it is self-management, it is self-motivation, it is empathy, it is relationship building. This is not an emotional intelligence class, but I'm about to go into what I call the 10 commandments of becoming a no-yeller. And these 10 commandments, they are actually from emotional intelligence domains. So that's why I've shown you the screen. So let's go and take each of them one after the other. Can you show me the next screen, please? The next screen. The first commandment, thou shalt practice active listening. Thou shalt practice active listening. One of the biggest problems of leaders and entrepreneurs is that we do not listen. As a matter of fact, you talk more than you listen. If you really want to lead people and manage them well and manage them to effectiveness, you must get to a point where you learn to shut up and just listen. Honestly, if someone is going to keep making mistakes, if you pay attention and listen well, you will know. And even if they're not talking to you, if you listen properly, you will pick the vibes. So it is important to learn how to listen. And one of the ways you can actually build listening is to learn to think. Because I told you about amygdala hijack. Amygdala hijack actually means that you have separated your feeling mind from your thinking mind. So you're feeling, your emotions are taking over and you are not thinking anymore. So if you think, you actually can take a pause and listen better. There's a woman called Nancy Klein. Nancy Klein wrote a book, Time to Think. And then she wrote the second book, More Time to Think. I don't know if she's preparing, but I think she's going to write the third one. And she's probably going to title it Much More Time to Think, because what leaders don't do is that we don't think well. And because we don't think well, it also affects our listening. So you need to just learn to pay attention and listen to what is happening. And when you are listening, you need to be able to listen to the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication. Like you know, the words used in every communication contributes to 7% of the impact on the listener. The tone used contributes about 37% of the impact to the listener. And then the body language, contributes 55% of the impact. Meaning, it's not the word that is used, it's more of the tone and the body language used. So you can be telling someone, do this, and they say, and you tell them, do you understand what I've asked you to do? And they go, yes, sir, I understand. Actually, what they're telling you is, shut up and just let me be. If you listen well, you pick the vibe. Commandment number 2 of becoming a no-yeller. Thou shalt be empathetic. Thou shalt be empathetic. You need to know where they're coming from, and then you need to take it from there. Honestly, don't go around blowing grammar where they don't speak good English. Just speak pidgin, if that's what they understand. Just speak a language they get. I've had a chance to speak in different countries of recent, in Guatemala, where they only speak Spanish, and people speak English as well. But of course, I struggle to communicate. But you know what I had to do? I got someone that could interpret everything that I was saying to them and interpret what they were saying to me. That is me just taking a walk in their shoes. Honestly, if you don't get where they're coming from, you will not understand how to lead them or how to direct them. In his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey said, seek first to understand before you are understood. So we get it. You are the manager. We get it. You are the entrepreneur. You own that business. We get it. You started that business with your sweat. We get it. It took you many years to save the money up and you eventually started. Well done. Congratulations. However, I am your staff. I have my story as well. I'm coming from somewhere. Do you know where I'm coming from? Because if you don't know where I'm coming from, you will not know how to keep me engaged. You will just be shouting as Mrs. and Mr. Yeller. Point 3, commandment 3, thou shalt speak calmly but confidently. You need to learn this, right? Especially when you feel the emotion bubbling up inside of you. Learn to speak calmly, however, confidently, because I know there are people in your organization, if you speak too calmly, they like to take advantage of that as well. So there's a difference between shouting, yelling, and intimidating people and speaking confidently. As a matter of fact, your confidence is shown better when you are calm. So learn to do that. Commandment 4, thou shalt be aware of your demeanor, your own verbal or non-verbal communication. Because a lot of times I hear people say, but I've been saying it, but they don't get it. The question is, what are you saying? Are they hearing the words coming from your mouth, or they are seeing your body language? Because when you are shouting, you are not communicating the words. You are communicating your frustration. So all they know is this guy is frustrated. And then they do what is the easiest thing to do at that time. Sometimes that thing is to get to do what you want them to do, but not perfectly, because they have not heard you, they have heard your frustration. So it's important to take note of that. Next slide, please, as we go through these commandments. Commandment 5, thou shalt be aware of your personal limitations. And perhaps I could have started with this. This is about self-awareness. It's about you knowing what triggers that emotion in you that gets you on the edge. It's about you knowing what situations, what environment are so toxic as to move you or push you off the edge. And then you can't control yourself anymore and you start throwing tantrums. So it's about to know your personal, it's important, to know your personal limitations with your staff and know when to talk and when not to talk. You can actually excuse them out of the room when you think that it's not time. You can actually take a 1-minute break. You can take a walk, just to cool off a little bit. Number 6, thou shalt be vulnerable. This is very interesting because a lot of leaders, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of managers do not want to show their vulnerability to their people. And there's a school of thought that says never show your weakness. And there are particular countries where you never show weakness. It's a culture. I believe Germany is one. However, I believe Nigeria is perhaps one as well, where you just have to show people you're good, you're big, and all that. But you see, deep inside our hearts, we know that as long as you're human and you've got blood flowing through your veins and your arteries or wherever you are in your body, you have some flaws and some weaknesses as well. See, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and letting people know that you're not as perfect as they think allows them to be themselves and then open up to you when there's a problem. There's a way you are so perfect that they are doing something wrong repeatedly, but they are scared to tell you they don't know what to do. There's a way you show up as the almighty entrepreneur and the almighty manager that it is difficult for people to then tell you how they cannot do this, or how what you told them yesterday, actually they've forgotten, or what you told them yesterday, actually, I did it after it was a fluke. I didn't quite get what you said. So they can't talk to you. But if you're vulnerable, if you allow them to speak up, to be, if you are that accessible to them, they'll tell you, Oga, that's what you told me yesterday. I don't get time. I just try them and it work. Please show me again. And let's be honest with ourselves. Come on. I know you're smart. And then you got all A's in school, or you got all 100%. But some of us are not that smart. We need to be taught the same thing over and over again before we get it. And sometimes when people tell me, I have taught them and they understand. Are you teaching them the way you will understand, or you are teaching them the way they will understand? Because if you are teaching them the way you understand, it's your fault. So you need to find out, how will they understand? And there are 3 levels of teaching. Let me just chip this in. You need to tell them. You need to show them. You need to let them. So some people, the moment you tell them, they will get it. Some, you show them, they will get it. Others, you show them, they try it, they made a mistake. You show them, you try, they made a mistake until they get it. By the way, that is why companies have learning and development departments. That is why I've got a job, the job that I do. Is because people have got different learning styles. Have you noticed that there are some people, they're not educated, as it were. However, what they are good at, they're very good at it. Just find what is the best way to teach people and show them what you want them to learn. The next point, thou shalt always reassure your people's worth. Make sure that you find opportunity to tell them how good they are. There must be something they are good at. If someone is totally useless in your organization and you keep them, they're not the ones useless. You are useless, because you should know when someone is not fitting in your organization and you let them go. There's nothing wrong in letting people go. Just do it properly. You don't need to shout at them for them to go. Just take the best approach. Just take the best approach, for them to either fit in, and when they cannot fit in, guide them out of your organization. Very simply put, and I know it's simply put, but it's not easy to do. However, if you put your mind to it, then you can do it yourself. The eighth commandment, thou shalt empower your people. Empower them, give them resources, give them the authority to do things, allow them to make their own mistakes. Of course, reasonable mistakes, please. Allow them to make such mistakes. If, honestly, if it's something that is standard driven, that you can't do it twice, you have to do it once and get it, give them what they call a checklist, and let it be a case of, number 1, I've done this. Number 2, that is what they do in a lot of factories. That is what they do in the oil and gas sector. That's what they do in the engineering and electrical sector, because you don't want people to make mistakes or get too creative. You give them a checklist and they go one after the other. Make it easy for your people to do their job. Can you go to the next slide, please? Now, last 2 commandments here. One is, thou shalt be mindful. Yeah, teaching, tell them, show them, and let them. Yeah, that's the correct one. Thou shalt be mindful and present. Thou shalt be mindful and present. It's so interesting that a lot of leaders, entrepreneurs, managers complain that this person is not getting it. But while you are saying it, you are on your phone. Or while you are saying it to them, your mind is gone somewhere else. So we can all see you moving your mouth, but we are feeling your absence. You know what I tell people? You are too present, but absent. You're checking your phone, your mind is not there. Bring your mind to your work, put it into the conversation. When you are with them, demand that they do the same thing, and then you get it right. That's the principle of the thinking environment I spoke about earlier. Create a thinking environment where everyone can sit down and let them shut off every other thing and just learn what we're about to learn today. That's the reason a lot of organizations take their people out for training. And I know you might not have that resources right now, but you can create an environment where we put phones away, we come earlier before customers start coming, we sit down around the table or around in circle, whatever. We give each other 5 minutes each to solve a problem, and we don't interrupt each other when we are saying it. We just open our mouth. We don't judge each other. Watch people become the best they can be in a thinking environment. There's a workshop around that can help you create a thinking environment. All right. Commandment 10. Thou shalt be explicit and leave no room for confusion or misinterpretation. Now, I've insinuated this along the line, but a lot of problems with, and I saw what a lot of us have written in the chat box when we were talking about why we shout at people. Honestly, a lot of our frustration comes from them not understanding. And when people don't understand, it's partly your fault. And I know that I'm putting the blame on you now. I'll tell you why it looks like I'm doing that. I am not. It's just that when you want to change a thing, you start with what you can control. The truth is, you cannot control people. So what can you change in you that can trigger change in them? Because you cannot change them. One of these things is actually to communicate effectively. And what I have here is the 7 C's of communication. I'll start from correct. Just make sure what you're telling them is correct. So put your mind to it, be very clear, make it correct. The next one is complete. Give them complete information. A lot of times you tell people do this, but you don't give them complete information, they make a mistake, you blame them for it, but actually it's your fault. Make sure every time you communicate, it is very complete. It is concrete. It's not wishy-washy. It is concise. It's not too long. As a matter of fact, if you know if that person is not the smartest man on earth, he probably needs you to tell him something simple every time. Do not stack communication. Don't say, take this thing, turn that stuff, turn it to the right, turn it to the left, put it up, put it down, shake it 7 times. Honestly, even me, I will forget it. Make it concise. If it has to be that long, give them a checklist. Or do a YouTube video. Record yourself in a video, send it out to everybody. That's how to do this. Make it simple for them to know what they have to do. Consideration, that's another point. Consider them. Consider their level of English. Don't go or buy Agma on them. What I mean by that, for people watching from other countries, is you're speaking very heavy grammar that even you're not very sure about. We're very confused. Consider our level. Consider where we're coming from. Just make it simple. Also, consider who they are. Before you actually speak, make it that clear. Courteous. Honestly, do not be demeaning or condescending in speaking to people. Be courteous, be respectful. And respect is not a function of age alone. Respect is reciprocal, like they say. So somebody just made me laugh. You reciprocate respect. So be courteous, be respectful. How you speak to people, make sure that you don't speak in a rude manner to them. And finally, be clear, clear. Clarity is very important. Be clear around the goals, the assignment, the task. Be clear around the vision of the organization. Be clear about what you want them to do part-time. It is very important. So those are the 7 C's of communication. I'll go through them again. Correct, complete, concrete, concise, consideration, courteous, and clear. Now, I know there are many more C's of communication. So I want you to do a quick activity for me. Next slide, please. Quick activity for me. Next slide. I want you to choose your own C. Now, that is not showing very well, but what it means is choose your own C of communication and type in the chat box. You cannot choose any of the C's I've mentioned, so choose your own C of communication and put it in the chat box. So let's see other C's coming through. All right. Thank you. Calmly. Thank you. Chineye, say calmly. Let's take other C's. So you speak calmly to people, clarify, Absolutely. If they don't understand, as a matter of fact, you should ask them for clarification. Do you understand? If they say yes, ask them, what do you understand? Caring, great. Kind sounds like C, but it's not C, it's a K, so we'll skip that. Conscious, connect with them. I've already said consideration before. Be creative, but be careful. Don't be too creative such that you're not even getting what you're saying. Be compassionate, thank you. Correct, we've said that correct before. Be compassionate, again, thank you. Be coherent, very correct. Don't give us mumbo jumbo and just, kill everybody. Be courteous, thank you. I love this one. Commend people, thank them when they've done something right. Coaching, communication, totally. Be compassionate, be concise, be consciously, give compliments, be certain. That is so true. Be certain of what you are saying even before you say it. Be sure of it. Comprehension, of course, ensure comprehension. And the one way to ensure comprehension is you ask questions. Do you understand what I'm saying? They go, yes, I understand what you're saying. Ask them, what do you understand? Let them tell you back. Let them tell it to you again. If it's right, then they get what you're saying. If they're telling you, I get you now, I get you now, I get you now, tell them, what do you get? If they say, I get you now, they don't get it. Repeat yourself, this time, a word at a time. Be considerate, be caring. Patient is not a C word, but okay, Grace, we allow you to fly a little bit. Be considerate, be conscious, be cool and collected, I like that. Be confident, be constructive, show care, be calm. Compression. I'd love to know more about compression. Looks like you're saying make it concise, but that's nice. That's fine. Give compliment, be coherent, cooperate with them to be effective in your communication. Totally. I love this exercise. Thank you, Khadija. That's not a C, but I take the compliment. Calculated, calm, concise, compliment, clear, conclusive, consistent. It's so nice. Thank you so much. I think we've reached a lot of words now. Before we get into the realm of constipation, conjugation and all that, let's leave it here. Cooperative, coordinate. All right. Thank you very much for this exercise. So beautiful. We're almost at the end. So next slide, please. So it is possible. Please show me the next slide. It is possible to keep your people motivated without losing your cool. You just need to work on you. So I want you to leave with that word, that it is very possible to keep your people motivated. You just need to work on you. Now, we're going to take questions now, but before we take the questions, just quickly, next slide, please. Before we take the questions, now there are certain things I've not covered here because it's already covered in the course. So I want you to register for the BLA course. What you're going to learn is you actually learn the big ideas about employee motivation. I'm going to give you practical tips on how to motivate your employees now that you've taken care of you. Number two, you will learn how to demonstrate to your team that you care about them, which is very important. Number three, you'll improve the productivity and profitability of your business by building a highly motivated and effective team. So please, after this webinar, make sure you rush to register.
Wow, that was amazing, guys. I hope you learned something so far. Now, before we proceed into question and answers, I wanted to give you this deal that is up for grabs. So you've learned so much from Mr. Harry Akinola, but then there's so much more you could be learning about how to manage your employees. So for the month of September, we have a course we're offering at Business Lab Africa, where we're teaching you about employee management. Now, let me quickly show you the curriculum, what you'll be learning for an entire 30 days. Right? It's like 30 full days of learning. Now, what you'll be learning how to get the right employees. So your hiring process, how to hire them, what to do to get the right people into the business. That's one. Second thing you'll learn is employee engagement and motivation. So a continuation of what Mr. Harry has taught today. You'll also be learning reward performance, so how to reward them. Do you need to punish them when they do something wrong? What should you be doing actually? Then employee discipline and absenteeism management. This is a huge problem across different kinds of businesses where your employee just doesn't show up to work and they send a text message. Sometimes they don't even call or message you. And the last one is designing HR policies and system. So all these 5 things we're going to be teaching under the course topic employee management in the month of September. Right now, subscription for 1 month is 12,300 naira and $32 if you are in a foreign country. So what we're offering you, this deal I'm offering you, is if you sign up for September, you get October subscription free. Wow. Like, I don't even know why I'm offering this deal, but I just feel like a lot of African businesses need to learn. You need to learn how to manage your people. So this offer is valid for the next 72 hours. That's 3 days, after which the link will be deactivated. So if you're interested in learning way more than, and how we learn at Business Lab is you have your student area on our platform. So you get access to all the recorded videos. There'll be 3 live classes. So can you imagine, you have over 10 recorded videos teaching you all I have talked about. Then you have 3 live classes where you can ask the trainers questions based on what you have learned in the school. There'll be worksheets, there'll be slides for you, like everything, all for $32. This is unbelievable. So please grab it if you're interested, and you get October subscription free. Now, how do you pay? So you basically go to this link, paystack.com/pay/freebie. You fill in the form and submit. It's as simple as that. paystack.com/pay/freebie. Fill in the form, or you can send a DM to @Business Lab Africa. Yes, so simply fill the form and then click pay, and that's it, right? If you have any issues or you like a different payment option, so we have direct bank transfer. You can transfer to this bank account. The account name is the Business Gas Station, and it's First Bank of Nigeria. If you have any clarifications, you have issues with paying, send us a DM at the Business Lab Africa or email info@businesslabafrica.com. I repeat, send a DM to the Business Lab Africa or email info@businesslabafrica.com. And this is what you'll be learning in October for free. Business finance. These are all the things we'll teach you for free in October if you sign up now for September. Okay, so grab the offer and over to Mr. Harry for question and answers. Thank you.
Quickly, can I please have the questions? If you have questions, quickly. I'm going to the chat box now. Any question? Okay, thanks. Support. Truly, I need to work on me. Honestly, when you hear you're right, we all need to work on ourselves. It's a very important thing that we need to do. Any questions? Register where, please. I'm sure support will send you details on how to register. Thank you, Francisca, for your feedback. Excellent presentation. Thank you. No question, guys. Come on. Tell us any question from you. So thank you. I got one question here. What do you do? Hold on. What do you do with the staff that is so dull and want the old time to adjust? Do they want it or do they need it? Now, you'll need to answer that question. If they want the old time to adjust because they're struggling, they're not just fitting into it could be an issue of culture. Your style is probably too harsh for them and they're struggling to connect. So I need you to, first of all, find out, is it that they want the old time or they need the old time? If they want the old time, it's an attitude problem, then you need to deal with the attitude. Ideally, if they continue, I'll tell you, maybe they don't fit into your organization. If it's a need that they're really genuine, that, you know what, I don't know it, but I really want to do this, then you need to find their learning style and support them properly. I hope that answers your question, the peridot. I think we can implement this in our personal life. So totally. And honestly, don't look at me as like a preacher preaching down on you. These things affect the pew and the pulpit as well. We all need to work on ourselves. We all need to grow emotionally. See, emotional intelligence is not an event. It's not a place to get to. It's a journey. You need to improve because we all have things that can trigger us just like that. So we all need to learn and grow. Very informative. Thank you very much. Thank you for the lessons. So there's a question here from IB. So I have a staff who is really good at what it does, but these days is feeling like the company can't work without him. What can I do to motivate him or encourage him? First of all, ask him. Ask him questions to trigger why he's feeling that way. You need to know. Don't assume how people are feeling. You don't know. Feelings are very personal. So if they're demonstrating a behavior, you need to track that behavior and ask them, I've seen you behave like this, like you're coaching them. I've seen you behaving like this. Check with them. Is that true? They say yes. Please, what is responsible for it? Then they'll tell you. Absolutely ask open-ended questions here to help them unpack it very well. And when you unpack it, you will know exactly what the gaps are. And I would not let the cat out of the box, IB. When you take the course, I listed 10 things you can do to motivate them. But you must find out that whatever you want to do is their own motivating factor. There's a template you can use to do this on the course. I hope I answered you, IB. Grace, just learned that I really need to work on myself. Thank you. We all do. You really stimulated my mind. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Very informative. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy. Thank you. How do you handle a staff who constantly skips things without losing your cool? So you're saying they are not present. They are absent-minded. Now you need to work on their mindfulness. However, because honestly, when people are not mindful, it means that their mind is somewhere else. So you want to ask yourself, can I help with that personal problem? If you cannot, what people do in a big organization is you allow them to go solve that problem out. You give them long leave. But I understand you might be running a small business. If you cannot do that, then you need to have a conversation with them. Because if people keep skipping things, it can be detrimental to your business. You need to find out from what is causing it. But it's lack of mindfulness. If they cannot change or you cannot fix it, you probably want to, help them, release them to their destiny. What is the average time limit to train a staff to do their job before sanctions? Honestly, it depends on the job type. It depends on the staff. It depends on the training. So there are a lot of factors here to consider. But what I will ask you to do is, first of all, find around that particular job you want to train on. How long does it take for an average person to master it? And how will an average person master it? Then find out the person's learning style, then use their learning style, choose the material and train them. And if they will not just get it, either because it's not their style, it's not their forte, it's not something they're interested in, then you might start sanctioning. But I'll tell you that the first thing you should do is not to sanction them. All right, thank you. An opener for me. Thank you, Appa, Cecilia. What do you do when your staff consistently have excuse for not doing what is expected? Their job description, that is a demotivated staff. You have right there in your hands. That is so you need to find out why they're not doing that, why they're not doing what is expected of them. Sometimes they have a reason, other times it's an attitude problem, that you can deal it accordingly. Honestly, when you ask, you'll receive. How do I handle workers older than I am who bring age into everything? If someone brings age into everything, you need to put them in their place, albeit respectfully. Remind them that we are here to work, we are not in age combat. So you need to be very specific. And please, when you deal with them, don't be derogatory, don't be rude, be respectful professionally. So you need to learn to be extra professional, the way you speak to them, if you send them emails and all that. But actually bringing age to the conversation is a total no-no. And I can tell you, for the last many years of my life, everyone reporting to me has been older than me in the corporate. In fact, some of them like 20, 25 years older. They're very, very, very elderly people. But you see, we don't bring that into. I respect them and I demand respect, albeit by being firm and being confident, not shouting, not derogatory in any way. If they continue to do that, then you know who to work with in the future. What do? We start that lie. That's a major attitude problem. Do you want to keep them?
What did you mean?
So there's a, I didn't get that. Was that a question? Okay. Do you want to keep them? Lie is an integrity issue. And honestly, for many businesses that I've seen, integrity should be a key value for them. So if someone lies and is so open that they lie, then you want to ask, is there a value conflict here? If there's a conflict with their value and your value, then you want to start making the right decision around that. What can be done if after no yelling, the staff still takes one for granted? If someone takes you for granted and they are rude to you, call it out. Be specific. Have a session with them one-on-one and tell them, I see that you're taking me for granted. And please, it's a feedback you're giving, so you have to be very specific and very constructive. You tell them, I saw this, and this is the way I feel about it. I think we are colleagues, we should respect each other. Please don't do it anymore. Now, if they continue to do that, after you've spoken to them, follow your organizational disciplinary policy. Follow your organizational disciplinary policy. And if you don't have one, because you're a small business, you need to develop one and let everybody know. Usually, it will be verbal warning, next written warning, another written warning, then final warning. Or if there's a bigger panel, invite them to a disciplinary committee. So you need to put, if there's a structure and process in place. See, you cannot run things in a very haphazard way and expect people to be structured. So you need to put structure in place to make it work. But I know a lot of small businesses with very solid structure that help people as well. So we've got a few more minutes. Do you have any other question related to the presentation, of course? How do you handle a sibling who is your staff too? Treat them like a staff as much as possible. It's difficult, but try to treat them as a staff as possible. And if you have a structure in your organization, you have policies, it helps. That is why people develop policies, so that everyone is guided by the same thing. What do you do to a staff who is good at her job, but will always do what she wants as against what she's trying to do? For example, we arrange our product in a particular way, but she always goes against the saying that she needs to display all the product. That is good. Do you have like a policy, it's called the merchandising structure or something like that for your product that you follow? You probably merchandising guide, something like that in retail. You probably want to give her that so that she then can use that going forward. And if she has a challenge, try to know why she wants to display in a particular way. You'd never know. It's difficult to do, but maybe you should ask her, why do you want to display this way? And then if there's no real reason, if it's just a personal preference, then you can insist on saying, oh, it has to be done this particular way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about the last question for the evening. Oh, more coming through. How do you motivate unpaid peers who are volunteers? I create e-magazines, and my current gig heavily involves working with peers who volunteer their time to curate content. Honestly, there are at least 9 other ways to motivate people without money. And I'll leave you to take them from the course. Honestly, it's well thought through. There's a template you're going to use. So I'm not going to go into that because that's already written somewhere, if you don't mind. The course will show you how to do that. There are 9 other ways. What can one do to a member of staff who has the skills but lacks the right attitude to work? You need to ensure that this is an attitudinal problem. Honestly, I cannot help you with that. If someone has an attitude problem, you hardly can change them. They hardly can change themselves. So you want to ask yourself, will the wrong attitude affect your work? If the answer is no, then you can keep up with it. If it will, then you need to have a very, very stern conversation with them. There's something called courageous conversation. And leaders must know how to have courageous conversation. A lot of times people hide behind shouting because they cannot face people and have real conversation with them. You need to grow and learn how to have courageous conversation. Somebody want the amount written out. Okay, it's now being written out. Thank you. Support. What do you do when staff don't use their medical insurance? I don't quite get this, but it's called medical insurance because it's insurance against them falling sick. So if they don't fall sick, it's actually good for you. Remember, when they fall sick, they don't only use up the medical insurance that you've already paid. It's a sunk cost. They also, you lose man hour, which is a cost to your company. So I'll say don't do anything. It's okay. The good thing is that they're not falling sick, which is good. However, if they're falling sick and they don't use the medical insurance, then it's to their own advantage to use the medical insurance. So you want to have a conversation with them and tell them what it is and what they can benefit from using the insurance. But honestly, if there's medical insurance, which is safer, it's like you saying, you have insured your car, but your insurance is not used. Thank God there's no accidents, right? Yeah, so that's okay. What do you do to a staff that demands auntie-uncles from a boss? What is your policy? Again, that's why you structure things. Write a policy around how employees will address themselves. Do you address people on a first name basis and all that? Honestly, culturally, if this question is, okay, I think, yeah, this comes from a Nigerian. Culturally, Nigerians like to be respected. And if I'm older than you, I want to be called auntie or uncle, whatever. But in the workplace, is there a policy on how we address each other? Enforce that policy. How do you enforce it? Top down. Don't allow anyone to call you uncle, and don't call anybody uncle. Everyone else will get it. I used to work for an organization in Nigeria, and if you call the MD Mr. This, actually, he's not going to answer you because you need to call him on a first name basis, right? I mean, I'm not very used to people calling me Mr. Harry. Sorry, support. No offense. I'm used to people calling me Harry, call me Harry or whatever other title I have. But I'm just saying that it depends on the culture of the house. So create a culture and enforce that, communicate it and enforce it. That's how it works. Or encourage a culture and enforce the policy. Thank you. They fall sick. If they fall sick and they prefer native medicine, wow. Well, again, is it faith related? Does it work for them? You need to, find out about that. But if the medical insurance is a company-wide policy, you don't need to take it away. They still have it. It's part of their benefits. Using it or not is a different conversation. But if it's faith related, I know that some faith do not use medicine. I know, for instance, the Jehovah's Witness wouldn't use medicine. So it's their faith, and you have to respect people's religions. You have to respect people's faith. The workplace is not about religion. So if that is the case, respect it. If they prefer native medicine because of some other reason, find out what the reason is first before you cancel your medical insurance. But by all means, and I'm sure you know that it's cheaper. The more people you have, the more deal you can get from medical insurance companies. How do I treat a staff member who goes against the office rules and even rebels why talks behind the employer when she's not there? Do you have proofs? If you have proofs, do you have disciplinary policy? Take her through the disciplinary policy. Very simple. Take her through the disciplinary policy. When payment has been made, okay, no, that is to the Business Lab Africa. Okay, they've answered that. How do I motivate my employees to work extra hours? Why do you want your employees to work extra hours? If they really need to work extra hours, by the way, don't think every employee wants your extra money. Not necessarily. But if they need to work extra hours, put a policy around it. Do you pay overtime and things like that? Now, if you don't pay overtime because you cannot pay it, or you don't pay to that category of employees, find other ways that motivates them. And like I said, there are 9 other ways other than money in the course that you can learn and then bring them on board. I'll tell you, I've never received overtime in my life, but at my level, at a director level that I am, I can work anytime. I mean, I don't stop working until the work is done. So I need to know how to balance my life. So extra hours for me is now. I mean, it's about 10 p.m. here in South Africa. There's an email I need to respond to after the session. However, I know when to take a break from work. I know when to arrive work late. I know when to leave early and things like that. That's at my level. But you need to find out what works for your own people. The last question here, thank you so much. How do you undo a very arrogant staff? It's an attitude problem. Have a conversation with them. See, some of these questions I've taken already in the course. I welcome you, like that the support has shared. I welcome you to check that out. And also, you personally, you can contact me, but not for anything in the material. You have my contact on social media. Feel free to do that. And have a nice evening. Don't we all love BLA for ensuring we all learn? Thank you so much, BLA, for organizing this. Thank you, Trish. God bless you all and have a very good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, that was amazing, guys. I hope you learned something so far. So you've learned so much from Mr. Harry Akinola, but then there's so much more you could be learning about how to manage your employees. So for the month of September, we have a course we're offering at Business Lab Africa, where we're teaching you about employee management. Now, let me quickly show you the curriculum, what you'll be learning for an entire 30 days, right? It's like 30 full days of learning. Now, what you'll be learning how to get the right employees. So your hiring process, how to hire them, what to do to get the right people into the business. That's one. Second thing you'll learn is employee engagement and motivation. So a continuation of what Mr. Harry has taught today. You'll also be learning reward performance, so how to reward them. Do you need to punish them when they do something wrong? What should you be doing actually? Then employee discipline and absenteeism management. This is a huge problem across different kinds of businesses where your employee just doesn't show up to work and they send a text message. Sometimes they don't even call or message you. And the last one is designing HR policies and system. So all these 5 things we're going to be teaching under the course topic employee management in the month of September. Right now, subscription for 1 month is 12,300 naira and $32 if you are in a foreign country. So what we're offering you, this deal I'm offering you is if you sign up for September, you get October subscription free. Wow. Like, I don't even know why I'm offering this deal, but I just feel like a lot of African businesses need to learn. You need to learn how to manage your people. So this offer is valid for the next 72 hours. That's 3 days, after which the link will be deactivated. So if you are interested in learning way more than, and how we learn at Business Lab is you have your student area on our platform. So you get access to all the recorded videos. There'll be 3 live classes. So can you imagine, you have over 10 recorded videos teaching you all I have talked about. Then you have 3 live classes where you can ask the trainers questions based on what you have learned in the school. There'll be worksheets, there'll be slides for you, like everything, all for $32. This is unbelievable. So please grab it if you're interested, and you get October subscription free. Now, how do you pay? So you basically go to this link, paystack.com/pay/freebie. You fill in the form and submit. It's as simple as that. Paystack.com/pay/freebie. Fill in the form, or you can send a DM to @Business Lab Africa. Yes, so simply fill the form and then click pay, and that's it, right? If you have any issues or you like a different payment option, so we have direct bank transfer. You can transfer to this bank account. The account name is the Business Gas Station, and it's First Bank of Nigeria. If you have any clarifications, you have issues with paying, send us a DM at the Business Lab Africa or email info@businesslabafrica.com. I repeat, send a DM to the Business Lab Africa or email info@businesslabafrica.com. And this is what you'll be learning in October for free. business finance. These are all the things we'll teach you for free in October if you sign up now for September. Okay, so grab the offer and over to Mr. Harry for question and answers. Thank you.